Let's go over the basic rules for yes/no questions and negative statements. Today's lesson objectives include: what are yes/no questions? How do you make yes/no questions with the be verb? How do you make yes/no questions with helping verbs? When do you use do, does, and did in yes/no questions? What are the three uses of have? And finally, how do you answer yes/no questions? Now let's go over the main points for part 1, the be verb. So, how do you make a question with the be verb? To make a question, just switch the subject and the be verb. So if you have a sentence like Ali is sick today, just switch the subject and verb, and now you have is Ali sick today? And there's the question. For a negative statement, just put not after any form of the be verb. I am hot becomes I am not hot. You are late becomes you are not late. It is easy. It is not easy. And each of these has a contraction form as well. I'm not hot. You aren't. Or it isn't easy. Now, with helping verbs, not comes between the helping verb and the be verb. So if you also have will or should, you would say, I will not be late tomorrow. It should not be here. Question and negative formation is the same for all forms of the be verb. Question and negative formation is the same when the be verb is the main verb, like above, or a helping verb, like in the continuous tense, or part of a phrasal helping verb, like be going to. So let's look at some specific examples of questions with the be verb. For example, the past simple with was and were. Was the game exciting? Yes, it was. Were you waiting long? No, we weren't. Or the continuous tense, be plus ing, be doing. Are the children sleeping? Yes, they are. Was your sister living in the dorms? No, she wasn't. Or the passive voice, which is be plus the past participle, like be done. Were the dishes washed? Yes, they were. Was the door locked? Yes, it was. Finally, be going to, be able to, these phrasal helping verbs. Are you going to come with us? Yes, I am. Were they able to get tickets? No, they weren't. So you see here the be verb always follows the same rules. For the question, just move it to the front. And that's it for part 1. Go on and do the exercises, and I'll see you in part 2. All right, let's go over the main points for part 2 of today's lesson, do, does, and did. First, we got to talk about helping verbs. How do you make a question with helping verbs? To make a question, just switch the subject and the helping verb. This is just like the be verb. So Kai will come later. Got the subject, helping verb, main verb. Switch the subject and helping verb. And now you have will Kai come later? Or Martin can speak Arabic. Can is the helping verb. Switch the subject and helping verb. Can Martin speak Arabic? To make a negative statement with helping verbs, just add not after the helping verb. Alex might play in the game. Drop in not, and you have Alex might not play in the game. You should use your phone. Drop not in the middle. You should not use your phone. Question and negative formation is the same for almost all helping verbs. These include can, could, will, would, may, might, must, should, anything with the be verb, and have in the present perfect. Have done, has done. Now, what about the present simple tense with do? When you make a question or negative statement, you must have a helping verb. However, the present simple tense doesn't have a helping verb, so you need to add a helping verb. And how do you do that in a question? To make a question, just put do in front of the subject. So, they have a test tomorrow. Drop in do, and now, do they have a test tomorrow? That's it, just put do at the beginning. Or, we need to leave soon. Drop in do we need to leave soon? Or, do you need to leave soon? And for a negative statement, put don't in front of the main verb. So I live with my parents. Drop in don't. I don't live with my parents. Or the students have textbooks. Drop in don't. The students don't have textbooks. And that's how you make questions and negatives in the present simple. In a question and negative statement, do is a helping verb. Now things can get a little bit tricky. So we need to talk a little bit about math, specifically algebra. So you start with a problem like x plus 2 equals 6. To solve this, you subtract 2 from the left side and then the right side. So whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. And that leaves you with x equals 6 minus 2. Solve for x. X equals 4. Now, why do we need to know this for English? What do you do with the third person singular? Does. When the subject is he, she, or it, you have to add s to the main verb. When you turn this into a question or negative statement in the third person singular, you have to do a little math. So in the question, to make a question in the third person singular, he, she, or it, start by putting do in front of the subject. Then subtract the s, the third person singular s, from the main verb and add the s to do. This is how you solve for x, sort of. So how does this work? Well, Skylar likes ice cream. You have the S because the subject is he. Add do. Now you have do Skylar likes ice cream. But this still isn't correct. Now we have to subtract the S from likes and add it to do. So the final question is, does Skylar like ice cream? For a negative statement, start by putting don't in front of the main verb, just like before. Then, like the question, solve for X. Elizabeth lives here. Drop in don't, so Elizabeth don't lives here, but we're still not done. Subtract S from the main verb, then add it to don't. So the final negative statement is Elizabeth doesn't live here. So what about the past simple with did? When you make a question or negative statement in the past simple, you have to do a little math just like with the third person singular S. So for a question, start by putting do in front of the subject, then subtract the ed from the main verb and add the ed to do. So again, you're solving for X. Skylar played rugby. Drop in do. Skylar played rugby, but we're not done yet. We have to move the ed to the front. So the final correct question is, did Skylar play rugby? And for a negative statement, same thing. Start by putting don't in front of the main verb. Then, like the question, solve for X. Elizabeth lived here. Drop in don't. Then move the ed. Elizabeth didn't live here. That's do, does, and did. The last thing we need to talk about is the common error that I call double trouble. Remember that in the third person singular, he, she, or it, you must always have one S. Takes, works, plays. In the past simple, you must always have one ed. In a regular statement, the S or ed is connected to the main verb. Now, when I say the past tense is made by adding ed, this is for regular verbs. However, many English verbs, the ed is added a different way. These are called irregular verbs like go, went, or eat, ate. However, they still follow the same rules. So with the S, the ed, you have sentences like Brian walks to work every day, or Brian walked to work yesterday. In questions and negative statements, however, the S or ed moves to the front with the helping verb do. So, does Brian walk to work? Did Brian walk to work? Or the negative statement, Brian doesn't walk to work. Brian didn't walk to work. So what is the double S, double ED error? What is the double trouble? Students often remember to use does or did in the question or negative form, but they also keep the S or ED with the main verb. For example, a student might say, does Rie wants to come? This is the double S error. Or, did you eat breakfast today? This is the double ED. Ty doesn't has his own car, the double S. I didn't made dinner last night. That's the double ED. And that is enough for part 2, do, does, and did. Do the homework, do the exercises, and I'll see you in part 3. Now let's go over the main points of part 3 of today's lesson, the 3 uses of have. So what are the 3 uses of have? First, have is a main verb. When have is a main verb, it follows the same rules as other main verbs without a helping verb. That means the present and past simple tense. Add do, does, or did, depending on the time and subject. Now, have is a main verb in these general situations. For example, I have a Jeep Cherokee. Have is used to show ownership. Or, I have 2 sons. This shows a relationship. I had pancakes for breakfast. Have can be used to mean eat or drink. Or, my sister had a baby, meaning she gave birth. These are the common uses of have as a main verb. So the regular statement, I have, it has, they had. But in the question, you need do, does, or did. Do you have? Does it have? Did they have? And in a negative statement, I don't have, it doesn't have, they didn't have. Now, in very formal, old-fashioned English, you will read and hear questions and negative statements without do, does, or did. For example, have you the time? We haven't the time. However, this is very uncommon in standard American English today. My advice to you is don't use it. The next use of have is actually have to, a helping verb that means must. Have to as a helping verb works the same way as the main verb have. You must add s for the third person singular. The past tense of have to is had to. We have to arrive at work by 7 o'clock. Kevin has to finish his report by tomorrow morning. Everyone had to take the final exam yesterday. Notice that the pronunciation have changes to have to or has to when it means must. Be careful with the pronunciation. So regular statement, I have to do, it has to be, they had to go. The question becomes, do you have to do? Does it have to be? Did they have to go? And the negative statement, I don't have to do, it doesn't have to be, they didn't have to go. Finally, the third use of have is in the present perfect, have done. In the present perfect, have follows the same rules as other helping verbs. Just switch the subject and have to make a question. Add not to have to make a negative statement. For example, I have never been to Europe. This shows my experience. Melissa has already finished her project. This shows the unknown past. They have been working all night. This answers the question, how long? So in a regular statement, I have gone, it has been, they have been doing. Notice the pronunciation of have is the regular v or z sound. I have, it has. Same as the main verb. The question, have you gone? Switch the subject and helping verb. Has it been? Have they been doing? And the negative, just add not. I haven't gone. It hasn't been. They haven't been going. And that's pretty much it for the three haves. Just remember which form of have you're using. And that's it for this entire series of lessons. There is one more bonus lesson you might want to watch about how to answer yes/no questions. Do the homework, and I'll see you either in the bonus lesson or in the information questions lessons. Aloha. Finally, here is a bonus lesson, answering yes/no questions. So when you answer a yes/no question, there are basically only two answers, yes and no. To answer a yes/no question, you only need three words. You need yes plus the subject plus a helping verb. Or no plus a subject plus the helping verb and not. Now, answers like probably, I think so, they're basically the same as yes. I doubt it, probably not, they're basically the same as no. Now, if the subject of the question is a noun, change it to a pronoun in the answer. Does Lucy have? Yes, she does. It's not common to say, yes, Lucy does. No, the answer should always be a pronoun. Now, the helping verb. Use the same helping verb in the answer as the first word of the yes/no question. Whatever that first word is, use the same word in the answer. And finally, with not, use the contraction form of the negative. For example, I will not becomes won't. Has not, hasn't. These are some general rules that I suggest you follow. So, again, yes, no, subject, helping verb, with not for the negative. So, do you want? Yes, I do. No, I don't. Does it take? Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. Did they enjoy? Yes, they did. No, they didn't. Notice the last word of the answer is the same as the first word of the question. Would you like? Yes, we would. No, we wouldn't. Should he go? Yes, he should. No, he shouldn't. Can Emma play? Yes, she can. No, she can't. Have you finished? Yes, I have. No, I haven't. Was it raining? Yes, it was. No, it wasn't. Is Kai going to be? Yes, he is. No, he isn't. And that's it. Just remember to follow this simple pattern and you will be fine and it will become very natural in no time. Just keep practicing and you'll be amazed at how easily you can make questions very soon. And that's it. See you in the information questions lesson very soon. Aloha.